The night my brother unwrapped a $60,000 check from my parents for his dream home, I was told to keep saving.
So I bought the entire street instead.
My name is Elena Vasquez, and I was 32 when my father pushed a thick manila envelope across the Sunday dinner table to my older brother Marco. Inside was a cashier's check for $60,000. A down payment on a 4-bedroom colonial he had been eyeing for weeks. When I cleared my throat and asked if there was anything left for me, my mother didn't even look up from her roast beef. "Elena, you've always been so resourceful," she said, patting my hand.
"You'll figure it out.
You always do."
Marco got a house that evening.
I got a backhanded compliment that would fuel me for the next 2 years.
Welcome back to Zarabell Stories.
This is a place for the quiet ones, the overlooked siblings, the people who were always told they were fine while everyone else got the lifeboats. If you have ever been the reliable one who never made a fuss, this story is for you.
To understand that envelope, you need to understand the gravity in my family. Money was like water in our house.
It flowed downhill, and downhill was always Marco. When he wrecked his Mustang at 20, my parents bought him a newer one.
When he dropped out of college, they wiped out his loans.
When his credit card bills reached 5 figures, my mother dipped into her retirement fund to bail him out.
I was never the one drowning.
I was the one building the boat. I worked double shifts at a diner, put myself through community college, and landed a job as a forensic auditor. I lived in a basement studio, drove a 10-year-old sedan, and clipped coupons religiously. What no one knew was that by the night of the envelope, I had $52,000 saved. I had built it $100 at a time for nearly a decade. In my family, having money you didn't need was like having a spare room.
Someone would always find a reason to fill it.
That night, I drove home above the laundromat where the dryers thumped until midnight. I sat down with a legal pad and wrote a number, $52,418.
Then I wrote what I knew. I could afford a modest house. Toledo was affordable. And I was done asking anyone for permission.
The next morning, I called my credit union. The loan officer gave me a sobering pre-approval amount.
A state auditor's salary only goes so far. I decided I would make it work. I just needed to learn how.
The answer came on the second Tuesday of every month at the Northwest Ohio Real Estate Investors Association. It met in a church basement. Folding chairs, instant coffee, and a clipboard sign-in sheet. That first meeting, I sat in the back row, understanding maybe half of what was said. In the corner sat an old man in a faded flannel shirt who got treated like a celebrity when he spoke.
Ed Kowalski.
73 years old, 4 to 5 years a landlord, and notoriously grumpy.
During the break, I told him I wanted to buy a duplex and live in one side. He looked at me like I was a leaky pipe.
"Everybody wants to be a landlord until a toilet backs up at 2 in the morning, he grunted.
Then he walked away. I went back the next month. And the month after.
It took Ed 3 meetings to remember my name. By May, I had learned the term house hacking and found a listing that smelled like a fresh start. But first, I had to survive Marco's housewarming party. 60 people crammed into his new colonial. My mother giving tours. "Feel the granite," she kept saying. I spent the next hour washing dishes in his farmhouse sink. Through the window, I watched my dad show off the garage. I felt like a ghost at my own life. That night, I opened my laptop. There it was. A 1920s brick duplex on Pine Street. 1 unit occupied, 1 vacant.
Needs TLC. Realtor speak for bring a flashlight. $149,900. I called my dad.
Not my mother.
I asked if he would walk it with me on Saturday. Check the furnace. Tell me what the wiring was worth. He sounded glad.
For 4 days, I let myself believe in the dream. Then Saturday came with rain. At 10:15, my phone buzzed.
Marco's water heater burst.
Basement flooding. Rain check, kiddo.
I sat in my Honda for a full minute, watching rain crawl down the windshield. Then I went in alone.
The inspector found knob and tube wiring in the ceiling.
Insurance companies hate it.
I knew 3 things. It wasn't dangerous, it would cost $6,800 to replace, and it was leverage. I asked for $6,800 off the price. The seller countered at $5,000. I said $6,800 or I walk. They took it. On a Tuesday in June, Brenda from the credit union called. "Congratulations, Elena. You're a homeowner." Closing took 4 to 5 minutes. I signed 62 pages and read every one. A small brass key on a paper tag sat in my palm. I was a homeowner, and no one on earth knew except a gum-chewing loan officer and the state of Ohio. I drove to Pine Street, sat on the bare floor, ate a gas station sandwich, and listened to the tenant's television murmuring through the wall.
I thought about calling my mother. Then I played the call forward. The pause.
The pivot to Marco's new gutters. I told the empty room instead. "It's ours," I said to the water stains. Ed turned out to be a prophet. 18 days after closing, at 2:30 a.m., the tenant called. The toilet in Unit B was having opinions. I stood in her bathroom in my scrubs with a flange wrench and a phone playing a repair video.
"I fix it in 2 hours."
Miss Ethel made me coffee and said the last landlord would have taken a month. That summer, I learned that paint is cheap and is a love language.
I mowed my own lawn. The numbers did what the legal pad promised.
My personal housing cost that first month was $305. Less than half what the laundromat studio had cost me. I kept going to Sunday dinner and kept my mouth shut. Then in September, I tested the water. Between the salad and the roast, I mentioned I'd been looking at rental properties.
My mother laughed. Not cruelly. Just a soft puff of air.
On a state auditor's salary.
Then my dad told the raccoon story.
The conversation drifted off. I made a decision. They had answered my question, and I would not ask it again. In October, I showed Ed my spreadsheets.
He read every line.
Twice he crossed out my repair reserve and wrote a bigger number. "Furnace is from 2008, he said. Then he tapped the bottom line and asked if I fix my own toilets. I said yes. Something in his face almost became a smile. Only once did he tell me anything personal.
I asked if his kids were in the business. He looked at his coffee for a while. "I gave my son everything.
First truck, first house, bailed out his restaurant twice.
He's 52 now. Doesn't return my calls.
Help that never asks you to grow isn't help."
Property number 2 found me in October.
An estate sale on Magnolia Street.
$86,000 as is.
As is meant carpet with a biography and a kitchen from the Nixon era. I did the demolition myself. During that stretch, I ran into Marco at Home Depot.
He was buying a $700 pizza oven. He told me he and his friend Dwayne were flipping a house. He said passive income twice. He paid with a credit card in our mother's name. He never asked what I was doing in demolition clothes.
In November, I found a key rack in the Magnolia cellar. Oak with 4 brass hooks and wood-burned roses. I sanded it, oiled it, and hung it by my back door. On the first hook, I hung the Pine Street key. On the second, the Magnolia key.
2 hooks left. I gave myself a deadline. 1 year for the other 2. I worked my regular shifts and gave Magnolia every daylight hour. I learned to sleep in 2 shifts. I missed my roommate's wedding because the furnace guy could only come Saturday. By Christmas, Magnolia had new floors and a tenant. $1,100 a month. Thanksgiving was at Marco's. He announced he and Dwayne were officially in business. He was funding his half with a $42,000 home equity line. My parents glowed. I sat there holding 2 rental properties and said pass the green beans. Leaving that night, my dad caught my elbow and pressed something into my hand. Folded small. $60. Gas money, he said. Don't tell your mother. A $60,000 envelope for Marco. $60 for me. I kept the bill. I still have it. In April, I refinanced Magnolia. I had bought it for $86,000 and spent $14,000 fixing it. The bank now valued it at $135,000. I pulled out roughly $33,000 in cash. Investors call it recycling capital. I called it a second wind. In May, I put that money down on property number 3. A brick bungalow on Cedar Avenue. $92,000. 20% down. A traveling respiratory therapist signed a lease before the paint cured. The 3rd key went on the 3rd hook. Then the phone rang. Ed wanted to show me something. He took me to a duplex on Hawthorne Avenue. Brick, built in 1938. Both units rented to long-term tenants. He told me he was packing up his life. His daughter in Arizona. His knees were done. This was his first building, and he'd been waiting on this one. A realtor would list it at $158,000, he said. I'll carry it for you at $140,000. 10% down. 6.5%. 20-year note. No bank. No circus. It's yours. I did the math 3 times. The down payment would just about empty me again. Why me? I asked. Ed looked offended. It's not a gift. It's a note. You'll pay me every month. Because you fix your own toilets. But there was a condition. I had to bring him my books first. Every property, every month. I spread my financial life across Ed's kitchen table. He read for 2 hours.
When he got to the legal pad from the night of the envelope, he stopped the longest. Then he closed the last binder and said, "Tuesday. My attorney's office. Bring the $140,000. That December, 18 months after I signed for Pine Street, I closed on the Hawthorne duplex. Ed shook my hand with both of his. In January, he moved to Arizona. The fourth key went on the fourth hook. The rack was full. I sat on my kitchen floor and cried for 30 seconds. Then it passed like weather. 4 properties. 6 doors. 18 months. Not one soul at that dinner table knew any of it existed. Then a reporter from the Toledo Business Journal called. She'd heard about me at our EIA. Could she buy me a coffee? I thought about it for 3 days. Newsprint is permanent. If I said yes, everyone would know everything on the same Thursday. I made a list of reasons to decline. My mother topped it. Then I remembered Tanya's question. Who exactly are you proving this to? I had been building a case file for a courtroom that would never convene. I could keep collecting evidence in secret. Or I could stand up and be seen on purpose. I stopped waiting for their verdict. I wrote my own. I called Renee back. Okay. But every number gets fact-checked. The story ran on a Thursday. From rent money to 4 front doors. There I was in newsprint. Nobody was coming to catch my mistakes, so I stopped waiting. By 7 a.m., my phone was exploding. Aunt Rosa forwarded the article to the family group chat. Is this our Elena? Marco sent a thumbs up. My dad wrote, that's her grandfather's brick on that porch. From my mother, nothing. Not for 3 days. Then she called. Come by the house. Please. They were all 3 in the kitchen. The journal lay on the counter. 2 years, my mother said. 2 years you've been sneaking around. You lied to this family. Nobody lied, Mom. You never asked. Not once. Because we didn't think we had to worry about you. Then Marco snorted. So what? You finally got yourself a house? Congratulations. The kitchen went very quiet. I looked at my brother and asked, which one? You could hear the refrigerator. My mother took a step back and looked at the article again, as if the number 4 might be a typo. The fallout arrived on schedule. My cousin needed money. A man from church had a can't-miss deal. My mother told the aunts. We never had to worry about Elena. That girl always lands on her feet. Then my dad showed up. He stood at the bottom of my steps. Your grandfather laid brick on half this street, he said. You've got his hands. Then he left. Marco came to Pine Street alone. He stood in my kitchen looking at the 4 keys. Then it all came out. He'd lost his job. The flip was dead weight. He was 2.5 payments behind. I don't know how you did any of this. I had a $60,000 head start, and I'm the one drowning. Then my mother called a family meeting. She came early with a coffee cake and asked for a tour. In the kitchen, she touched the key rack and told me a story I'd never heard. Her father's farm. 200 acres. When he died, it all went to her brother because Gus needed it. She was 24. Her father told her, You've got Frank. You'll be fine. She looked at my key rack while she said his words. I saw her at 24, being handed the same napkin they handed me. Then she snapped her purse shut. Sunday. And honey, Marco is drowning. Bring your checkbook. Sunday arrived. Same dining room. Same tablecloth. My mother nodded at my dad. He slid a manila folder across the table. A cosigner line. Highlighted in yellow. This is what family does, my mother said. This is your moment. I picked up the pen. My mother exhaled. I set it back down. No, I'm not signing. And I'm not writing a check. Here's what I will do. We list Ashland Drive this week. Price to actually sell. We call the bank about the equity line. We build you a budget off your real income. When it sells, you walk away clean. Then if you want it, the Magnolia house turns over in June. You fill out the application like everyone else. You sign my lease. I'll be the most boring landlord you've ever had. My mother stood up so fast her chair barked on the floor. He's your brother, not an applicant. I know that's your compliment, I said. So hear mine. I'm fine. I made sure of it myself because somebody at this table had to be. I walked out. My dad caught me at the door. Send Marco the Sunday time, he said. That was all. It was also everything. I drove home. I waited for the collapse. It didn't come. I stood in my dark kitchen and realized I was looking at keys. That's all. Keys to buildings where the furnaces ran and the rents cleared. For 18 months, those hooks had been a courtroom exhibit. I understood now that the verdict was written before I was born.
You can't win their game. You have to build your own. Marco texted that night.
What time? Sunday. I laughed until I held the counter.
9.
Bring your bank statements.
Here's where everyone ended up. Ashland Drive sold. Marco walked away with $7,000 and zero debt. The flip sold for a loss. Marco's share came to nothing. He got a warehouse job. In July, he filled out my rental application.
I made him wait 2 days.
Tanya said that was petty. Tanya was correct.
I regret nothing.
He moved into Magnolia.
4 rent checks.
Every single one early.
Sunday mornings, we do his budget. Sometimes my dad's truck is already at the curb.
He and Marco rewired my basement light. They argued for 4 hours. I heard my brother laugh like he was 12.
My mother hasn't set foot on Pine Street. We speak politely, like former co-workers.
A birthday card came.
It just said Mom.
That's all. The $60,000 is simply gone. Nobody mentions it.
Last Sunday, Marco pulled up early. He got out with donuts, looked up at me on the porch, and hollered, "Hey, you home?" I looked through the kitchen window at 4 brass hooks.
4 keys.
Which one?
I said. He laughed and climbed my steps. Being fine was never a consolation prize. It was my inheritance.
1 key at a time. Nobody gets to slide it across a table.
Nobody gets to take it back. That's my story. 1 envelope I never got. 4 keys nobody handed me.
And a Sunday table I finally built myself. If you've spent your whole life being the one who was always fine, take this as your sign. Build the thing anyway.
Share this video with someone who needs it. Drop a comment and tell me your story. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Zarabell Stories, where the quiet ones finally speak.